Wednesday, August 7th, 2019, Ann Arbor Development Authority Board meeting. We have in our audience staff only, but of course there's the millions watching us on cable network. And Susan, will you give us the roll call?
Absolutely. Bob Gunzel.
Here.
Todd McKinley.
Here.
Rick Plow.
Present.
Todd Lazarus.
Here.
Jessica Letow.
Yes.
Joan Lowenstein.
Here.
Molly McFarland.
Here.
Darren McKinnon.
Present.
John Moa.
Here.
Risha Narayan.
Here.
Keith Orr.
Here.
Bill Weiss.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Excellent. First thing we have to do is approve our agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
And a second? All in favor of approving the agenda?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, approved. Audience participation. We have no one signed up and no one in the audience. So we'll move on. Reports from city boards and commissions. My goodness, Ray isn't here.
Are these name tags new?
Sure, Ray's okay.
What?
Ray's not here, I'm kind of concerned.
Is he okay?
There wasn't a CAC meeting yesterday, so there's nothing.
All right.
We're sure Ray's okay.
DDA member communications. I'm guessing.
Yes, thank you. We were not originally scheduled to have an August board meeting this month, so I don't have August downtown halls this month. But as I think most of you know, I do have monthly conversations, 2 monthly conversations, one sit and chat, one walking conversation to look at current projects. So nothing in August, but I did want to give you a heads up for September. They're always very exciting, but next month one is very, very exciting because the Cirque Bar has invited us to come in and use their space. So if you haven't been to the Cirque Bar yet, I do encourage you to come. It's really, really beautiful and the drinks are amazing. So that is September 4th at 7 p.m. Again, the Cirque Bar. They're just excited that there's interesting and cool civic opportunities going on, which I will totally take it. So that's September 4th, 7 p.m. at the Cirque Bar, and then the walking tour for next month is that Saturday, September 7th, at 10 a.m. We'll do a walking tour starting at Blake Transit Center on the west side, which is the side on 4th. We will be done before the football game that day. Which is 12 p.m. against the Navy. So if you are,
No.
we'll be done before that.
It's not against Navy.
Who's against?
Army.
It's against the Army. It's against the other one.
There's actually 4. You know the number one.
Should really,
Space Force too.
Stop digging. Space Force is not
I wrote
a
it
football
down.
team yet.
They're fine, they're
Space
fine.
Force, that's what it is.
We're going down the rabbit hole.
All right.
That's all I have.
All right.
I have a follow-up question. Is the DDA covering the open bar at the Cirque Bar?
It's Cash Bar.
Yeah, work on that finance committee.
All right. Any other member communications? All right. Moving on. Executive Director Susan.
So I just got this morning, but as a result of the outreach that you did, Jess, I want to thank you. And one of the outcomes was we heard from residents at Lurie Terrace that heard about the work that the DDA is doing on Huron, and they also heard about the communication we've made with MDOT about changes we'd like to see on Huron. And they have sent letters to the governor, to Senator Jeff Irwin, to Representative Yusuf Rabi, and City Administrator Howard Lazarus, asking that the signal that is now a hawk signal at 3rd be made into a full signal. And they've also asked that I share this with you. So with your permission, what I'll do is just sort of pass it around, so we'll let them know that you've had a chance to see it. The case that they're making is so many of them need to cross a street that frankly is a little bit, it's frightening. And the cross streets with that hawk signal, Chapin and 3rd, those drivers can't see that the signal is supposed to hold traffic on Huron, on the east-west movement. So here are people on the crosswalk when there are cars making turns. And so rightly, it should be a full signal to protect the users of that area, which include not only Lurie Terrace residents, but others as well as the YMCA and all the youth programs. So just to let you know, they've contacted the state on behalf of our recommendations. Thank you.
Excellent. Approval of minutes, which are in your package. I need a motion.
Motion.
Second. And a second. Any changes or amendments? All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes approved. All right, on to subcommittee reports. Operations Committee, I hand it over to you, Phil.
Yep, that's me. First order of business today is I'd like to move a resolution to increase the Ann Ashley project budget to construct meeting and office space. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. As everyone here knows, there's been lots of discussion about office space. We went through a process of taking a look at, additions to the Maynard structure and the Republic offices there, and that just didn't seem to make sense in the end. So we've come back around, and this resolution is adding $4 million to the Ann Ashley expansion, as laid out on page 20 of your packet. It will increase the project budget by $4 million, like I said, for a total of $25,700,000. This is so that we can build out offices for the DDA and Republic parking in the structure. I think on your desks there's some materials in this packet which we passed around at the Operations Committee, which kind of discusses what we propose doing. Some initial project drawings by WGI, who is formerly known as Carl Walker, but
Name change.
yeah, I don't know. Did WGI purchase Carl Walker? Did they merge?
Yes, they acquired.
They acquired them. So it's really the same guys that we've always worked with. It's just called WGI now, even though Susan still calls him Carl Walker. So, is there any discussion about this? I think it's been pretty fully vetted and discussed, but this is the time to raise any questions or concerns, and I'll lean heavily on both Sarah and Susan if there are questions. There's also on your table, Sarah did for us a nice little graph, financial analysis, comparing rent costs with build-out costs annually over a 14-year period. And as you can see on the right, there's the variance column. I guess that's a mauve-ish color. I don't know. It does cost $33,000 more. We're spending $33,000 more to build this out, but that's only over 14 years. You can see that it's front-loaded with the construction cost in the first couple, 2 or 3 years. But Sarah tells me that if we looked at this over 20 years, that it would be pretty much a wash, and then we're going to make money after that. So we just did it over 14 years because of the life of the DDA.
And this doesn't take into consideration if you rent out the space, any income that would be generated, so that
Correct.
would make it smaller.
Yep.
Rent out the multi-purpose room, you're saying?
Aren't we bonding the Ann Ashley garage for longer than 20, or longer than 14, like 20?
Yes, but the question that we were aiming to respond to was, give us a sense of how the office component matches. And so for the life of the DDA, we were just looking at our office lease of 14 years.
Okay.
Yeah, the garage, we're looking at a 20-year bond.
Understood, so that means that these bond costs are inflated over what we will actually pay.
Sure.
To the point where if you...
Because it's over a shorter period.
Right, so it's going to be, my guess is,
A wash.
That's
well, it's actually going to be better than that, it'll be in the black, over 14 years, if you show the actual bond costs.
That's what you said, if it was over 20 years, it would be a wash.
Right, these are shown as what they would be actually. The numbers in the graph for the bond costs are shown at what we would actually pay each year over
Okay.
that 14 years. So it's just the bottom part of the 20 years that are not.
And speaking of the bond, half of it's going to be taxable, half of it's going to be tax-free on the recommendation of Tom Crawford, so that we can potentially take a look at renting out the meeting space there for profit.
The bond specifically on the office part, not the entire bond, right?
Correct. Yes.
Right, yeah. And not maybe exactly half, but some portion, and that hasn't been worked out yet. The other thing that's included in there are the lost revenue over the 18 spaces that we would be using that space to build on. So it all prorated for 38%, which is the portion that the DDA would actually be using, not considering the meeting room.
If we really wanted to be thorough, though, we'd program in here periodic renovations and upgrades to the space, which
Yes.
would offset, it's just part of the calculation that you can't have a space for 10, 15 years and not expect to upgrade it. So
Correct.
that if we're going to do a comparison, that should be included as well.
This is a very simple look at the comparison. It also doesn't take into account build-out costs for rental spaces if we were to change from this place to another place or stay here and renovate. So yeah, those weren't considered, but yes, absolutely, they would be a part of that whole picture.
Just on the process side, I want to thank you guys for doing this. This was, if you remember last month, this was brought to us for a decision, and we decided to put it off for a month, send this through operations and send this through finance. I just feel like we have a lot more information to be able to make a better decision. So I just wanted to thank everybody for that.
And the only other thing we talked about is that we're going to go, whether 50% is taxable or not taxable, bringing that back to the finance committee so that we can flesh out those numbers.
Absolutely. Yep. But the goal would be to do it to take this out in September. As far as the bond is
Yes,
concerned.
just have more transparency as far as the bond.
Any other questions, discussion? Mr. Chair?
Seeing none. All those in favor of the resolution to increase Dan Ashley project budget to construct meeting and office space, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Looks like we have a decision. Passes. Moving
I feel
on.
like we should flash.
Unanimously.
All right, next, under the Operation Committee is on page 21 in your packet, and I'd like to move a resolution authorizing a contract with WGI for the design and engineering of the construction oversight of the Ann Ashley project build-out. Thank you.
And a second.
So
Need a
this is-
Second.
There we go. That was second with a question.
Wasn't sure about that.
So basically, we need to do a new site plan, and these guys are gonna help us with that, or do it for us. So, we need a site plan to do the project, so the committee, I think, is unanimous in recommending that we do this. So, again, WGI is formerly Carl Walker, the same guys that have done the previous site plan for us, so I think it's pretty straightforward. Are there any questions or discussion items?
Bill, just for clarification, it would be more than just the site plan.
Yeah.
It'd be good for folks to know the scope.
So the scope in this case is not just that, as we said, the site plan and the engineering involved, but they would also oversee the construction that would take place inside the space. And that's a specific set of subs that will be distinctly different than the rest of the garage, which is a lot of formed concrete, poured formed concrete. This is going to be all the specifics to an office.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? In that case, let's take a vote. All those in favor of the resolution authorizing a contract with WGI for the design, engineering, and construction oversight of the Ann Ashley build-out project, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes unanimously again. Back to you, Phil.
All right, the rest of my report starts on page 22 in your packet and discusses the art fair off-street parking revenue, which, correct me if I'm wrong, I think increased for the third year in a row. So I think there's some real concerns about, I don't know, the health of the art fair maybe. It's something that we discussed at that committee. You can see the numbers there. The monthly parking and transportation report is in the packet. Jade is not here, so I think we're gonna have to lean on Susan if there's any questions. General operations report is in the packet. I think Chris is here to answer any questions about the Go Pass if you have any. Any discussion about any of that stuff?
Yes, I'd just make the comment, one of the things we talked about related to the art fair was, anything we can do to help or oversee or coordinate. So Susan was good enough to offer to, join in and meeting with the organizers and just getting a better feel on behalf of the DA of how they're feeling about the art fair and moving forward. And, I just throw it out that if the community is supportive of it continuing, there may be a greater role for us to play beyond parking. I don't know. Who knows where it might lead, but I appreciate that Susan was willing to go and spend the time to least dive in a little deeper and understand it from a community point of view. I guess I just sort of throw out to folks that I think it would be worthwhile moving forward at some point if maybe the partnerships committee, for instance, could take up again that issue of looking at all the festivals and events that are held downtown. We've had conversations on and off once in a while over the last number of years, but we've never really taken a deep dive into what's our role and what can we do to help coordinate things. And there are just a lot of fairly complex challenges that relate to a lot of different groups in the city, and there's no simple organizing principle around it. So I just sort of throw out there as a suggestion moving forward that art fair may be one of a number of events that are worth looking at.
And it's a number of art fairs that happen in Michigan in the summertime too, so there seems to be more and more.
Oh, sure.
Creating competition.
Yeah.
How do we distinguish ourselves?
Yeah.
But when I look at that mission, I feel like it doesn't fall under that. I feel like art fair would fall more under destination in Arbor as someone who's trying to attract, because it's a one-day thing. So I'm not sure that we should take a bigger role. I mean, that would just be my.
Yeah, and I'm not advocating, I'm just suggesting that it's something that at least to be talked about. Because at the very least, one of the things that's been discussed is the idea of the use of the streets, the impact on streets and security and those sorts of things, and may even affect street design moving forward, those sorts of things. So it may be a very secondary role, but part of it is, I think as Susan often says, if not the DDA, who's going to jump into some of these roles? And I think it's an interesting question for the DDA, because this notion of the identity of Ann Arbor, what is our role in any of that? And you could say our keeping our lane, and it's really how you define what our lane is. So it'd be an interesting thing for DDA to discuss moving forward.
One area that crosses the mission and events is the idea of the safety and the bollards. That is like a legitimate and a fairly new cost, and it's time consuming, it's a lot of bandwidth, it's a constant worry, and then it's one thing that always requires communication, supervision, or whatever, and I know that we were going to focus not just for our groups but for other events, and we had planned areas which were secure, that bollards could be put in, put out, and that was part of the cost, and it was removed from events. That would be an area that would fit under, I think, under the mission in terms of strengthening the downtown and help events out that is not in a kind of granty, picking winners kind of way. So if this was an area that there is like a legit build development area that we could, so I just put that out there because I actually heard about that, some muttering about that just this last art fair, about how to deal. Obviously, everyone knows it's important, but it's really quite a burden to organize and pay for and do. So, and it's fairly new on the cost, from a cost standpoint.
Yeah, on that, we talked about it, the operations committee is from the AAATA standpoint. Chris Simmons was talking about, he's here, about the shuttle services that have typically been run and the reductions they've made because of the cost. I mean, it was costing the AAATA money to run certain shuttles that the fees they were collecting weren't covering, and so they've chosen to cut back on that. And that was kind of talked about in conjunction with how the parking operation perhaps losing money. Would be interesting to see is this report we got in both. If you noticed, Phil didn't like the landscape 8.5/11, so they give you a portrait 8.5/11, make it even harder to read than also the 11/17 version.
Thanks, Mike.
But anyways,
But we
we do have this. But if you
Oh, we
compare,
have
this is just,
8.8.
I assume this is Thursday through Sunday over the years. It'd be interesting to know what does a Thursday through Sunday, the week before or after Art Fair, look like and compare these revenues. Because I'm guessing we actually bring in more money, especially because of the Sunday part. But when you start talking about.
Yeah, I think we talked about art fair revenue has declined over the last 2 or 3 years.
Right.
Not overall. Yeah.
But just another indicator of financial health as it relates to all the unseen costs.
Yep.
To the point. This is just park revenue. This is
All right.
revenue for those 4 days of the last 18 years, I think.
If there's no other discussion,
I do. I just want to make one
sorry.
point.
Sorry.
If we are truly moving towards getting people to carpool and take alternate means of getting around. Parking revenue is not necessarily a good parameter by itself of the success of the art fair. I could argue it's a parameter of success in getting people out of single-occupied
Oh,
vehicles.
that's a good point.
Getting people what?
Neither one of those is well grounded in
Out of
fact, but you
single
can make the
occupancy
case.
Out of single occupancy vehicle.
The general discussion was the feeling that our fair might be suffering.
All right, the next Operations Committee meeting is Wednesday, August 28th, right here at 11 a.m.
All right, thank you, Phil. Capital improvements. You're taking this one.
I'm going to take this
All right.
one. Molly and I are now co-chairs of the Capital Improvements Committee, but I will update you guys. So due to the timing of projects, the July Capital Improvements meeting was canceled, and this month's meeting was moved up a week to next Wednesday, August 14th at 11 a.m. So if you're around for partnerships, stick around for capital improvements. If you're coming for capital improvements, maybe come a little bit early and check out partnerships. In terms of projects, Fifth and Detroit is substantially complete. There are some remaining issues to deal with, and as a reminder, this is actually a city engineering contract, so it's really the city that's taking the lead on this, but the DDA is there to support. On Huron, the DDA contractor is working right now between Ashley and 4th Avenue, installing permeable brick pavers and the tree grates. Some of the tree grates are in, and I encourage you, if you haven't, to walk down the sidewalk. They look pretty sharp. So those are coming in. And between 4th Avenue and Division on light pole foundations, electrical, and concrete work. Curbs are being installed this week, followed by sidewalks. The street light pole delivery is delayed a bit due to steel tariffs and a really high volume of construction, which we've talked about before, but we've received word that we should get our first batch next week. Moving on to 4th Avenue, the DTE gas work there has been more extensive than originally planned. They were unable to bore the gas main as originally designed and had to remove a lot of sidewalk as a result of that, which is why you've seen the street closed for as long as you have. This has delayed their work as well as the DDA's restoration work, which is now underway. And then finally, on William Street, they're doing final paving between State and Division today. And the contractor is preparing for stage 2 this week, which is the work between 5th Avenue and Division Street. And if you visit the downtown library, they already have a sign up on the side of their building, which is next to the stairs going in the front, showing where the new book drop-off is going to be. So they're getting folks ready for a small change in where that's going to happen. Any questions about the project? Amber would be happy to answer anything. All right, very good. Our next meeting, as I said, sure, is August 14th at 11 a.m.
Excellent. Finance Committee, Bob.
The Finance Committee meeting for July, which was actually scheduled for August 1st, is canceled. And our next meeting will be Thursday, August 29th at 1 p.m.
All right. Partnerships, Tyler.
Nothing major to report, just the next meeting is, as Jessica said, at 9 a.m. next week, followed by her meeting, the capital improvements. So come for that one, stay for both if you want. See you there.
For the
And this is
partnerships.
an internal one, right?
Yeah, DDA. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Executive Committee, we met, of course, this morning, as we always do before the board meeting. And as usual, we reviewed the board meeting agenda. Nothing major to report there. Our next meeting will again be just before the next board meeting, so Wednesday, September 4th at 11 a.m. Any new business? I'm guessing no other audience participation. Oh, look at that.
I like audience participation.
I
You're
just
going
thought
for a
I'll-
new record, Keith.
I just thought
Sorry,
I'll
guys,
let you
you're
know.
moving too quick.
Ray is waiting in the vestibule to dash in at the last second.
So Chris Simmons, Triple ATA. Just a reminder that the rides budget is out for public commentary up through our vote, board vote, I believe, on August 15th. The reason we're making more note of it this year than perhaps we have in the past is we are proposing, and I do use that word advisedly, proposing the elimination of the art fair ride shuttle service as well as the football ride shuttle service. There is a large explanation in the strategic business plan and budgetary documents as to the rationale for that. The short version is those services come exceptionally close to the Federal Transit Administration's charter rule, which prohibits the agency in receipt of federal funds from using its equipment to compete with private operators of transportation services, i.e. Those private operators in the market that can provide shuttle services. We are not in violation of that rule, but it is very close, and as a result, we cannot charge premium fares for either one of those services, which turns it into a financial loss for the agency. And our current 5-year curve, as projected, shows about a $4 million gap between our agency revenue and our operating funds 5 years out. So in the attempt to change the curve, the proposal is on to remove all the shuttle services.
What's the gap for our fare? Like to make it whole?
I don't have that specific number. I can tell you that the larger driver of that is actually the paratransit service costs as projected, but this is a component of that, and I'd suggest you suggest that you submit those sorts of questions, comments, concerns back through the comments form at theride.org.
How much outreach was done before you decided to eliminate those services? And who did you contact?
I can't answer that question. Mr. Carpenter would have to be questioned on that directly. It's not a final decision. That is part of this. This is part of the proposal, and I do know that the art fairs were contacted directly regarding their feedback for this proposal.
What about football?
I can't answer that question. I'm not informed.
What's the point at which you have problems with federal restrictions on competition?
If we were to charge anything other than regular fares, that's an absolute. My personal opinion from 15 years of working with the FTA is that the current service, depending on which regulator is reviewing the service, could be viewed either way.
How much background is
The
given?
current shuttles.
How much background is given behind those decisions?
Quite a bit in the budgetary documents, including the direct link to the FTA charter rule.
Thank you.
So, Chris, let me understand. Wouldn't you be more in competition if you charge less?
Welcome to the vagaries of the FTA charter rule. The answer is we cannot charge more than our published operating prices per trip. We also can't charge less than our published fare per trip because of the other FTA regulations on what we have to do for public impact or public comment regarding our fares. So basically, we're limited to, we can't charge any fare different than what we charge on any other day of operations.
That's not what you said, though. What you said is you can charge a differential.
We can't change,
with
we
the public.
can't charge a differential
Can I just
above.
jump in here that this is audience participation? We've turned it into a discussion.
We
But-
have.
So I would suggest.
We gotta grab another segment for
Yeah, exactly.
So
So I would
First meeting, he's
suggest-
keeping the rules tight.
Right, so I would suggest if we want further discussion on
Go
this.
get 'em, Keith.
Certainly, operations would be an appropriate place to discuss it, as well as,
But I believe
as
our-
Chris said,
The vote.
directly with, through
The
RIDE
board, next board meeting for AAATA, I believe, is August 15th, so any comments would need to be made between now and then for board consideration before final adoption of the board budget in September.
So,
We
please.
can go monopolize that for public comment.
Right.
So
Thank you,
please,
there you go.
Athletics is its own.
All right.
Message director.
That was not.
Any other audience participation?
Oh, I hope not.
Participation. All right, in that case, on to adjournment. I need a motion to adjourn.
Second.
And a second is there. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We are adjourned.